quorum.
Okay. So there is Ann. I'll do a quick check with her.
Oh,
And Heather Redmond, if I can get a quick audio and video check from you.
good morning.
Morning, Heather.
Good morning. Out. Okay, great.
Well, I am told we are live, so good morning, everyone. I will call the Board of Regents meeting of Washington State University to order on Friday, November the 13th at 9 a.m. I'm Brett Blankenship, serving as chair of the board, and I wondered if our assistant to the board could take roll to establish quorum as we are meeting via Zoom.
Yes. Regent Ron Sims?
Here.
Regent Marty Dickinson?
Here.
Regent Laura Powell? Regent Powell? I can see you there. Joan
Sorry,
Schwartler?
I forgot the mute thing. Here.
Thank you. Regent Joan Schlottler?
John Shuttler is here.
Okay. Lisa Schauer?
Present.
Regent Enrique Cerna?
Here.
Regent Jeanette Ramos?
Good morning. Here.
Morning. Brett Blankenship chairs here. Regent Heather Redmond?
Here.
And Regent Arlake Hayan?
Here.
Thank you. We're all here.
And we have a quorum. Thank you all. So I remind the audience that the regents, as well as the presenters, are participating both by telephone and via Zoom, and we are being presented in the Zoom format as well as on YouTube concurrently. At this time, I'd like to welcome in our public portion of the meeting our newest regent, Jeanette Ramos. Welcome to the board, Jeanette. Regent Ramos is a Boeing Company executive who started out as a summer employee while completing her undergraduate work at Washington State University. She became one of the company's first environmental engineers and credits WSU for the opportunity. She's excited, enthusiastic, and now joining WSU as our newest regent. Welcome. At this time, I've also asked former Regent Baszler to call in. I believe he's on the line. And I hate to see people just disappear since we haven't been meeting in person. And I thought it would be wonderful to give him a farewell thank you at this time. So I would like to formally recognize Regent Ted, and I believe he's on the phone.
I am.
Regent Baszler served on the Board of Regents from February 2009 through September of this year. And he also served as chair of the board twice during his tenure and has been an incredible asset to the university and to the board. A die-hard, loyal, and enthusiastic Coug, Regent Baszler's presence on the board will certainly be missed. Please join me in recognizing and thanking Regent Baszler for his years of outstanding service to WSU. So here's a virtual clap. Ted?
Thank you very much. It's been a real honor for me to serve on the Board of Regents for so long. And Worthy used to say that it wasn't continuous. So I stepped off for a year to do some merger and acquisition work. He's giving me a hard time with that.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time out to call back in and let us thank you personally. Do realize we have discussed the new Department of Viticulture and Enology at the Tri-Cities campus, and we recognize the Wine Science Center is there because of your involvement and your work and the commitment of Chateau Ste. Michelle to the industry. And that's a real tribute to your effort and your talent. And we can't thank you enough.
Thank you very much. It's been a real honor to serve. And I got a nice note from third term Jay Inslee, and very thoughtful.
Well, that's really kind. Well, thanks again, Ted, and we'll keep the meeting moving, but I appreciate you taking the time to call in. Thank you. At this time, I think it would also be appropriate for other recognitions. One of the wonderful things about the opportunity to serve on the board is the amazing, accomplished people you get to meet and become colleagues with. One of those is fellow Regent Heather Redmond, who was just recently named one of the most powerful and influential business people in Washington for 2020, recognized in the Puget Sound Business Journal. So please congratulate Heather with me.
Well, that's embarrassing. Thank you, Brett.
Other Cougs on the list are former Regent Phyllis Campbell. Many of you have met. She is the leading executive of the Pacific Northwest Division of JP Morgan Chase. Former Coug Brad Jackson, who's CEO of Slalom Consulting, an 85 grad, and Lean Cowas, a CEO of a Seattle biotech firm, Athera Pharma. Very talented people, so good company for Regent Redmond. We will also have a public comment period during this meeting. The public comment period will be up to 10 minutes. Each speaker will be allowed 2 minutes, preference given to speakers who are speaking to matters that are or will be before the board at future meetings. Prior to comments, we ask that you state your name, affiliation, and subject matter. So as is customary, now it's time to hear a report from the president, and I turn the floor over to President Schultz. Mr. President.
Great. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for a productive day yesterday. I thought we had some really good discussions, and always thrilled to welcome new colleagues. The board is changing, and it's been great over the last year to have people like Ted, Mike Worthy, and others who've been around a long time serving, but some new faces, and looking forward to working with everybody as we continue to advance the university. So with that, I've got a set of slides. I'm going to move these fairly quickly, but I want to make sure I hit some highlights that I think you all would be interested in. So Kyle, if you can put up that first slide, thank you. So let's go to the next slide, please. Well, let's talk a little bit about enrollment. We were really pleased this semester that our enrollment, there were some projections, if you all may remember, at the end of spring 2020, that enrollment at places could be down 20, 30, 40%, that type of thing. Fortunately, for higher ed across the country, that did not happen. At WSU, we were down less than 2% from our all-time high of 31,607 in 2019. Lots of positives. We had our highest enrollment ever on our Spokane campus, and we also had our highest enrollment ever in the global campus. That is up over 4,000 students for the first time. We were down in Pullman and some of our other campuses, and we're just going to continue to watch this moving ahead. And I think that's an important part of what we need to be doing. Elizabeth just announced, I think yesterday, that we've hired a vice provost for enrollment management from the University of Alaska system. who's going to be working system-wide with our chancellors and everybody else on enrollment management. The other thing I do want to mention is led by Vancouver with the PDX tuition advantage, where we have certain counties in Oregon where students essentially pay in-state tuition. We also announced this last week, and I'll make sure I send this to the Regents, a similar program on the Tri-Cities in Umatilla County across the border, where they also do some recruiting. And I know we're also considering doing some things in Spokane with those border crossing things. So we're also trying to be opportunistic during this time and make sure that we're thinking very creatively about how enrollment's going to be looking moving forward. What's the spring going to look like? I wish I could tell you. We just simply don't know. There's clearly COVID fatigue out there amongst our families. There's economic impacts. There's lots and lots of different things going on, and we'll just keep you updated as we have weekly numbers coming in. Next slide, please. Well, many of you saw this yesterday in our research presentation with a record of nearly 370 million research expenditures. I just want to call out and shout out our faculty and staff that are working in the research space. Nobody hands you research dollars. It doesn't come free. This is where our faculty are putting larger proposals together. They are continuing to be successful. And this is really a hustle factor. If you normalize this data, this is what's really interesting on a per faculty member basis. We are just as high as our aspirational peers like Texas A&M and Purdue University. We don't have as many faculty as we want, but the ones that we do have are really doing an exceptional job. And I just want to make sure that we continue to recognize their great work here. Next slide, please. We also had a nice year in terms of philanthropy, and I know Lisa Calvert will talk a little bit more about some of this during her report. Despite COVID-19, we've surpassed 125 million in philanthropic activity last year. The highlight of the year was the gift from Bruce Adamson and Julie Parker that established our second endowed deanship at WSU and also endowed the athletic director position as well. They're like a lot of alumni that give significantly to the academic part of WSU, but also support Cougar athletics. And we're starting to see these larger type of gifts making a long-term impact. Everybody and several of you all as Regents really stepped up this last year and contributed to a lot of the COVID-19 relief funds. This is across all of our campuses. It was food insecurity issues, lots of different things, and we appreciate folks continuing to step up. And we also continue to receive significant gifts in the last month or so. This is a brand new $3 million endowed chair in Connors to support food security issues in plant and soil science. So we're continuing to see really great work in philanthropy from Cougs all across the nation. Next slide, please. Well, you all as Regents have been very involved and engaged in helping us move forward on putting together and approving in June our first ever WSU system strategic plan. Now, in some ways, the easy part's over. You have the plan. It's the implementation part that's really key. And really even more important than that is tying in implementation to budget. There's an old adage that if you want to see the priorities of an organization, you follow the money. And we want to make sure that we're using our plan for decision making, that we're tying in budget and budgetary decisions with that plan and supporting it and moving ahead. I just want to call out and express my appreciation to Chris Hoyt. She is our system-wide strategic plan guru, and this is in her area of responsibility is to lead these efforts and continue to make sure that we're engaging our campus community and faculty, staff, and students across the system on a lot of these strategic planning things. Now, one of the things that comes up all the time from faculty and staff when we talk about planning or we have any of these events where we get people together is the need to have a budget that makes sense, that supports where we want to go with future planning efforts. And no ill intent by anybody, but our current budget model is a band-aided and patchwork quilt of special deals have been made over the last 30 years. And we just need to do a reset on that and make sure that any of you all or any new leader coming into WSU should ask how our budget works. And in 15 or 20 minutes go, okay, I kind of got it. Right now, we would do that. And then we'd say, except for this, but what about this and so forth. So this is going to be led by Stacy Pearson and co-chaired with Elizabeth Chilton. That group should be announced any time now. And this is a multi-year project to redo our budgeting, and will require us making some significant changes in the way we do business. But I think people feel ready for this. They've been asking for it for a while, and we've got the right people in the right places to do this. So lots of stuff on plan implementation. And I appreciate the involvement, engagement of the regents in this, and look forward to continuing every regent meeting to give you some sense of where we are, put together dashboards, and have clear deliverables on what we're doing each year. Next slide, please. Diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts continue to move down the road, and we've got a lot of work that's going on in this area. Some of you who've been around as regents for a few years remember in fall of 2017, we had our students and faculty and staff, mostly our students, that just did not feel that the senior leadership team or myself as president were putting the appropriate resources or energy into diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts at WSU, primarily WSU Pullman. We had some sit-ins, and what came out of that was a formation of 5 working groups led by Vice President for Student Affairs, Mary Jo Gonzalez, and Associate Vice President Jamie Nolan, who worked with those 5 working groups and have put together a really fantastic report. But what's key, the report, and I'll send it to the regents, is not the report itself. It's over the last several years, almost all of the recommendations that have been made by that group have been checked off as a positive, and we've gotten done. Not everything, but a lot of things. So the next thing, the next step from those 5 working groups is establishment of a president's commission in this area, and we would announce that before the end of this academic year. One of the other things, though, that has come up was, have we ever looked at the policies that we have at WSU from an equity lens? And the answer was not a systemic way. So WSU Vancouver Chancellor Milton Etzhammer, and you'll hear from him after this, co-leads a group, a very diverse system-wide group, along with Zoe High-Eagle-Strong, Director of Native American Programs in Pullman, to look at all these different kind of policies and things like that. And do they make sense for where we are today? And that's not sexy work, but it's the important kind of key work that we need. A couple quick examples, though, of some things that we've got going from that. Our sabbatical policy had traditionally been that if you were going to go on a sabbatical leave, you had to physically leave your campus location. Well, in today's environment, not just COVID, but in today's environment, there's a lot of people that needed to do sabbaticals and didn't need to physically go anywhere else to be able to do those. Those are the types of things that have historically been done a certain way, or there was unwritten rules about those. And Elizabeth has stepped in and clarified that that's not the way we're going to do things moving forward. That's a really small example, but those are the types of things that we take for granted that really need a look on, are we supporting the needs of today's faculty and staff and students with a lot of stuff that we do. The other thing, and I may ask Elizabeth to comment on this briefly at the end of the presentation, is the idea of doing cluster hiring to diversify our faculty. We've been doing the same thing over and over for multiple years, and then we kind of bemoan that, for example, the number of African-American faculty in Pullman continues to be abysmally low, those types of things. And what Elizabeth came in and asked for some support for was to do some cluster hiring around particular areas. And she asked for proposals from the campus community. I may have the number a little bit wrong, but I think got 27 proposals from multiple campuses and colleges to be able to go out and hire faculty in a particular area. They were outstanding. There's been a down selection of 4 or 5 of those that are given the go-ahead to go out and do recruitment during this year. And the idea then is to do this on a multiple year basis to make sure that we're advancing the diversity of our faculty in an aggressive way across the system. So there's lots going on here. I could talk for 20 minutes about this, but I just would express my appreciation to so many of our colleagues at the leadership level that are working really, really hard across our system on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. It's a journey. It's not a destination, and we still got a long ways to go, but we're making progress. Next slide, please. Well, what the old adage, what do presidents like? New buildings and winning football teams. We're 1-0 in football, and we opened a new academic building, a new plant sciences building. And we appreciate the funding from the legislature to move this project forward. We're proud of Connors. We're proud of our plant sciences area. It's one of the leading in the country, and they needed continued modern research space. So this addition of research infrastructure is really critically important. I want to applaud Dean Andre Wright and Stacy we have a thing in Washington. This was very different than other states I've worked in, where when you're doing construction, if you can find and identify additional resources, you can actually go finish out space that you didn't think you were going to anyway. We didn't think we were going to be able to finish the inside of all the building, and they worked out a really creative internal financial arrangement to make sure that while the construction crews were there, we could actually finish out the building. So this was using some revenues from our creamery and things like that. And again, I appreciate Stacy's and her team's willingness to sit down with any leader across the system who says, I need to try and do something. And they come and they bring solutions to the table, not just no, but finding creative ways to make things happen. So look forward to taking you all through the building, letting Dean Wright talk about the great research going on here that our faculty and staff and students are doing. So when we're all back together physically, we can do that, but really proud of this great new facility. Next slide, please. Well, we also continue to enjoy some COOG success from our alumni. I think we mentioned earlier when Brett was talking about some of the more influential folks in Seattle. Atira Pharma is a WSU startup with an IPO that went out there, and this is going really very, very well. WSU has a strong position, financial position, and so their success down the road represents some significant positive financial windfalls for WSU, and we're really excited about this as it moves forward. And I think this is the first of what I hope are multiple types of these sort of successes that come out of co-investment and looking a little bit aggressively to the future and making sure that we're doing what we can for faculty, staff, and students who want to work in the commercialization space of some of the research that they're doing. Next slide, please. Some other recent institutional achievements, launch of a new Center for Research in Emerging Infectious Diseases in Nairobi. Many of you may remember the Paul Allen School for Global Animal Health has a huge presence in Africa, has for a long time, supported by the CDC. This new center was from a $6.7 million National Institute of Health grant. It's being led by Kariuki Jenga, who was our newest member of the National Academy of Medicine in 2017. He was selected, and really proud of the work we continue to do in Africa. Well, the Department of Viticulture and Enology, the degree program, Viticulture and Enology, this is all advancing forward the opportunity for our students, faculty, and staff. This will be a joint effort between Connors and WSU Tri-Cities. The new department means that all of our V&E students must spend their final 2 years in the Tri-Cities on that particular campus and in the St. Michel Estates Wine Science Center. You talk about a land-grant university and meeting the needs of industry in your area and state. This is a classic example of doing this. Next slide, please. Well, we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about Pac-12 and things like that. A lot of competitive success this last year, and just a couple quick points. Here is a picture of our soccer team last year. Went to the College Cup, top 4 in the country, won a match at home, won 3 consecutive matches away, including at least one field that team had not lost all year. So great, outstanding, exceptional group of young women. So often, sometimes as Regents, we get hung up or we worry, we think so much and we need to about budgets and things like that, we need to remember the impact that we have on these students and the things that they do. We also had a fantastic spring. For the first time ever, every single Cougar athletic team had over a 3.0 GPA. That's never happened in our history before. I want to give a lot of credit to Pat Shun and his team, his coaches that come in that emphasize that take care of business in the classroom. You're going to take care of business on the field. That doesn't come from just pronouncements. It is action by the folks that we hired. And finally, record fundraising. As a Pac-12 Power 5 school, our expectation for fundraising should be somewhere between $25 and $30 million a year annually for intercollegiate athletics. This last year, we had $27 million that was raised. That's more than double previous years. And hats off to Pat and his team, building relationships, asking for money. That's resources to assist with scholarships, capital projects, and things like that. And it's a real transformation from where we were just 2 to 3 years ago in terms of that support for intercollegiate athletics outside of WSU. Next slide, please. So managing the impact of COVID-19, and we could talk about a lot of these slides quite a bit, but let me just hit a couple things. One, our faculty are doing an exceptional job. This is a really tough time, as many of you are aware. We have a lot of our faculty balancing teaching from home. If they have students in the K through 12 system, they're at home. If they have daycare challenges, which we see in almost all of our community, they've got to balance that out. And then the COVID fatigue and the uncertainty of our economy adds together. And I'll ask maybe Dave Turnbull, as our faculty senate president, when he talks, to maybe address this. But and Greg Crouch, our faculty representative to the board, touched on this yesterday. Our faculty are tired. They're exhausted and a little bit of emotionally wrung out. I'm proud of the job that they're doing, but they're like almost everybody in the workforce, a really tough time. I'm proud of the job that they're doing. Our staff, some are coming into physical locations if they have to. Many are working from home, but our staff, and you'll hear from them today, are continuing to push an agenda of ways to support staff in creative ways. When we met with their leadership, APAC's leadership, the impact of the school system being closed on a lot of our faculty and staff at home is significant. And I just don't want to downplay that at all. But I appreciate our staff continuing to be creative and working with our students. And finally, our students are doing an amazing job. You'll hear from some of them today. I'm proud of the fact that not everything's perfect, right? Not every class experience is everything they would like, but we've learned a lot from the spring term that had us better prepared for the fall term, and we continue to do that. We've got some faculty that are superstars in the classroom and continue to innovate and find really creative ways to engage our students. And we're going to continue to make sure that we're bringing that innovation forward as much as possible and sharing that internally so other colleagues can benefit from things that work. Next slide, please. As you all are aware, we're going a mostly virtual environment for spring semester. This is prudent in this time. There'll be a few more in-person types of classes. We are proud of the fact that we did not have yet, knock on wood, a COVID-19 positive transmission in our classroom environment thus far for the fall term. So we feel we've learned what we need to do there. Elizabeth and her team have a very careful process. If somebody wants to teach a class or have some portion of a class in person, there's a process that they go through, an evaluation to make sure they're pedagogical reasons and not reasons of convenience. And really proud of the way that's gone. Next slide, please. So our testing plans, I think you all heard about those yesterday. I want to express my appreciation for Colleen Kerr and Daryl DeWald for their continued work leading the development of our testing plan. They're working closely with Mary Jo Gonzalez and their student affairs team, as well as Elizabeth Chilton and the academic affairs folks as well. I think one of the things that we got our testing started a little bit late in the fall semester. We can acknowledge that. We learned a lot. And I think what we presented to you yesterday is a much more comprehensive testing plan, making good use of what we're seeing around the country and what we're learning, and set up already in Pullman. Will things be slightly different in January? If we've learned one thing, we're still in mid-November. A lot can change in a couple months, and we're just going to continue to have to be flexible. But Guy Palmer, who's the Creighton Chair and a member of the National Academy of Medicine, has been leading a lot of the science-based work. Our colleagues in vet medicine are testing for the entire portion of Eastern Washington. There's just a lot of great work going on here. But we feel at this point as prepared for spring semester as we feel we can be. Next slide, please. And with that, Mr. Chair, I appreciate the time. And, I am proud of our faculty, staff, and students. People are being really resilient. They're doing a great job under really trying circumstances. And I think nobody wants trying circumstances, but often it brings out either the best in people or the worst. And I'm just so proud it's brought out the best in so many Cougs. So with that, happy to answer any questions, but thank you for all the great work you do supporting the leadership and everybody at WSU.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any questions for Kirk? Thank you for another great report. It's always good to hear the great things happening in the system. One of the crown jewels of the system is the Vancouver campus, and we have the Chancellor of the Vancouver campus online with us. We normally meet in Vancouver for this meeting, or it was scheduled to do that. So let's pretend we're in Vancouver, and Chancellor Mel will give us a report. Mel?
Thanks, Regent Blankenship, and welcome to Vancouver virtually. It's really a pleasure to see you all. Let me just start off with a fun fact before I begin. Our students and our administration worked with Clark County for a couple of years, several years now, to get a ballot box on campus. And we finally were successful in July and had that installed. And just last night, I got the data, just shy of 5,400, 5,361 ballots were dropped into that box, which made it the third highest drop box in the county. So we're very excited that we were able to make that happen and to really serve our community in that way. I am going to talk about a few things this morning, starting with COVID. But before I do that, today is also significant for another reason. You'll be hearing from our ASWSUV students, as you typically would if we were hosting on campus. But in addition to that, for the first time, you're going to hear from the Graduate Student Association of Vancouver, GSAV. This is a new group of graduate students, and it's been a real pleasure to work with those students. You'll hear about some of the issues that we are working on together and some of the challenges that our graduate students face. So I'm really glad that you'll be hearing from Kelsey in a few minutes this morning. And then finally, before I dive in, this work has really been a group effort, and it's always a group effort, but I really want to thank my leadership team, the cabinet at WSU Vancouver, that has worked tirelessly, as well as the system work that has gone on. My colleagues across the cabinet and across the system that have provided really strong support for work across the system. So some of the things related to COVID-19 and our campus. Some of the things to keep in mind in terms of the challenges that we face. We have a greater proportion of students who are parents. And so almost immediately as the schools closed, our students, as well as our faculty and staff, had parenting issues that they needed to address. We have a very significant number of students with who face economic uncertainty, and that was something, some of the things that we had to address. If you have turned on your TV anytime in the last 5 months, you also know that Portland has been one of the centers of where we've had protests regarding racial injustice and systemic racism, and our students have been engaged in that space as well. And so we have had to deal with the intersection of COVID with racial injustice, and that has been a very important piece of our work. And then finally, this was not unique to us, but hit us in a different way, was fire season. And we had a number of issues with the fires in Oregon being about an hour away, where the COVID protocol is that you bring as much fresh air into the building as possible, and the fires protocol is that you use only recycled air. And so we went through a period of about 2 weeks where we could not have people to campus because the buildings were not safe one way or the other. And so what kind of things have we done in to address these issues? And Kirk has talked about the things that we've done system-wide. In addition to a great program that was put together by Academic and Outreach and Innovation for the System, we have on our campus blended and networked learning and provided significant training. Between the training that we provided on campus and the training that AOI provided, over 2/3 of our faculty went through a professional development experience that really gave them new tools that they didn't have in the spring to be able to address the changing educational environment. One of the things that we did on our campus was that faculty who went through one of these programs got a tech kit that included a ring light, a Wacom tablet, and a couple of other things that allowed them to use the technology more effectively than they might have otherwise. And that turned out to be both a very significant incentive and a very useful tool for our faculty. We also went through the process of enabling all of our classrooms to be able to stream, anticipating that when we do go face-to-face, that not all of our students will be able to have a face-to-face experience, that we need to be able to make each of our classrooms streaming classrooms. And I think the latest data that I got was that we have 7 classrooms to go to achieve that goal. And I'll talk about the budget impact of that in just a moment. We have also tried to do some things in new ways that we know have to be on technology. And so our research showcase that we do in May was done online. It turned out to be hugely successful, and we are already planning that our 2021 research showcase will be online as well. So we've been looking for creative solutions. Last month, we gave out our Distinguished Alumna Award, and we did that at one of our advisory council meetings and delivered celebration boxes to everyone who was going to be at that meeting so that we could have noisemakers and bottles of fake champagne, carbonated apple juice, I think is what we ended up with. And our development team just did a fantastic job of really turning something that could have been very dry and unsatisfying into something that will be remembered for years and years. And so I'm so grateful for that work and that opportunity to think creatively about the work that we are doing. Other kinds of things. The Cougar Food Pantry has been of significant importance in this time, and we have raised significant dollars to support the Cougar Food Pantry, as well as for the Student Emergency Fund that Kirk referenced earlier. We have brought all of our mental health services online, and we have also created clean spaces on campus for students who might not be able to do virtual therapy or virtual counseling. And so they're able to go to campus in a quiet space, in a private room. The counseling session itself is still virtual. Our library really is the center of our campus at the moment. It is the hub where everything is happening. It's open to students, it's open to faculty. The laptop loaner program, which has grown eightfold since we introduced it in the spring, is run out of the library. And so we do try to make, we've tried to make the library a one-stop shop that is available to our students. We're working on morale issues. We had a drive-through graduation ceremony in August. I was not expecting much to come of that, given that 3 months had passed. We had over 300 students who showed up with their families packed in their cars and decorated cars. They were in their regalia. It was the most extraordinary thing, and it was done by our team with trays that were sanitized between each use. And I would stand back and hand the students their diplomas and their honor cords, and it turned out to be a lovely, lovely event. And so we are going to replicate that next month with a faculty and staff appreciation event that will have people drive to campus to be recognized. We are also holding spaces in CELA, which is our Center for Intercultural Learning and Affirmation, and our base program, Building a Culture of Equity. The impact of COVID on our students of color, our faculty and staff of color, has been very significant, and we have really worked to address that on campus. So those are the kinds of things that are happening on campus with regard to COVID. The budget impacts of that have not been insignificant. We are down around 93 FTE. That's actually my next slide when I talk about enrollment, but that will be about an $800,000 hit for us because of enrollment. Actually, let me say that we've had direct expenses, for example, the cameras in the classrooms, that are just shy of $500,000 to put up plexiglass to really ready the campus. We have had many indirect expenses, as you would imagine, as we redirect people to address COVID. But the big issues for us have been where we have seen significant revenue reductions. Our food services program has gone down to zero. We have laid off most of our employees. We have transferred one manager to a different position, and another manager will end with us at the end of this semester. We also made a decision to close down our child development program. Those two programs together are about a $1.3 million hit for us. Of course, our expenses go down significantly because we're not open. But we actually developed a plan that got approved to reopen the child development program, but could never find a way to sustain that financially. And so we ended up deciding to keep that closed and are really rethinking what the child development program might look like moving forward. And our parking revenue is down about $800,000 this year as well. So those are where the significant reductions are happening for us. So let's talk about enrollment for just a minute. Everyone asks me, they see that our fall undergraduate number and our fall undergraduate number from last year were exactly the same. That is accurate data. It was not our intent to be exactly the same, but that is the case. And it's a good way for you to see that really the reduction that we had this year really happened at the graduate level. 40% of our undergraduate students did not return this year, or were down 40% at the undergraduate level. That is not a huge N for us. We don't have a very large number of graduate students from outside of the country, but you can see it does have an impact on our overall enrollment. In really good news, we are seeing our largest freshman class in our history this year, 440 new students. Last year, we were at 380. So that is a very significant increase for us at the undergraduate level. On the flip side of that, we continue to see declines in our rate of growth. And this year we are down in transfer students, which traditionally have been 2/3 of our student body. This is really because of declining enrollments at Clark College, which is our primary feeder school. When I started, Clark College was at about 16,000 students. This year, they will be at about 7,000 students. It's hard to keep double-digit growth when you're seeing your primary feeder is declining by that amount. Our headcount is down 81, and our FTE is down about 93. That's because students overall are taking smaller loads this semester. We had a meeting with students yesterday, and many of them had dropped from 15 or 18 credits down to 12 credits, and we're seeing that reflected in the numbers. So that's enrollment. Kirk had talked earlier about our Portland strategy, and I wanted to give you an update on that. So we announced this about 6 weeks ago now. I expected with COVID and the election that it would be hard for us to get media coverage related to it. Quite the contrary. I think because it wasn't COVID or election coverage, it actually got a lot more prominence. And I was doing interviews with the local TV stations in Portland about this for much of a day. And so I think there's interest. We're very excited about this possibility. We had conversations with our legislators who don't often like non-Washington taxpayers to pay in-state tuition, and they were all very supportive of this. And in fact, before I even had a chance to talk to him, Paul Harris, in whose district we sit, sent me a great note about how excited he was to be moving forward with us in this work. We have also increased our corporate engagement on the Portland side of the river, and more broadly as well. And I've looked at that as workforce development. Workforce Southwest has funded us for 3 years to hire a career counselor who will focus on workforce development in the region. We are working on research partnerships. One of our faculty members has a new research partnership with Intel, and there are other smaller partnerships that are developing. I would say of all of our initial starts to the Portland strategy, that is the one that is hardest to move forward in COVID. Corporate philanthropy has increased for us. I told you that our laptop loaner program increased eightfold. Many of those computers were donated to us by corporate partners, really with just a phone call to say, we need your help in making this happen. And we also understand that as we come out of COVID, economic development is going to be hugely important in this region, in all of our regions. And so that has been a really big piece of the work that we've been doing. And then finally, broadly in our Portland strategy, increased philanthropy from the Portland side of the river has also been a part of this. And we've seen success. We've seen more WSU graduates who didn't necessarily graduate from WSU Vancouver, really excited about partnering with us and joining us and supporting us locally and creating partnerships in our community. And so that also has been really exciting for us. The last thing I would like to talk about in my time today is philanthropy and development specifically. So we made a priority in the spring, our Student Emergency Fund. More than 70% of our faculty and staff gave during our spring event, and almost all of that was to the Student Emergency Fund. In addition to that, the Community Foundation of Southwest Washington gave us $85,000 to support basic needs of our students during this time. With the CARES Act funding going to Pell eligible students, we were able to use that fund to support graduate students, to support undocumented students. And so that really became literally a lifesaver for students on our campus. And in the end, we're still raising for that fund, but we've passed $140,000 in our Student Emergency Fund, and that has been hugely important. We also have created the Harrelson Opportunity Scholarship. One of the things that has been noticed is the increased diversity of our campus. And this was a donor who came to us and wanted to acknowledge that that increase of diversity, and has now funded 2 scholarships that give preference to students of color that help promote equity on our campus. And that's been really terrific. I also wanted to call out the Cougar Food Pantry one more time because the Alumni Association did a food drive for our campus. The Vancouver and Portland chapters did an event for our campus that raised hundreds of pounds of food for our students. And that has been an important service that we need to provide. And we've seen from last year to this year about a 300% growth in students who have been using the Cougar Food Pantry. So there's a need, and that has been huge for us. And in my last minutes, I want to announce to you all today that a few weeks ago, we secured our largest gift in the history of WSU Vancouver, a $10 million gift that will support student scholarships. And this gift is designed to provide full scholarships to working parents. And so we're really excited about it. It is an extraordinary gift in that it's a legacy gift. The donors have degrees from 4 different universities, and none of them are Washington State University. And they wanted to make a difference in this community and began to develop a relationship with us and decided very quickly that they wanted to change lives in this community and work with WSU Vancouver to make that happen. And so we are really very excited about that gift. And I guess with that, I will entertain any questions that you might have for me.
Any follow-up questions for Chancellor Mel? Marnie?
Mel, really great report. Mel, thank you so much. And congratulations. That's outstanding, especially during a time like this. So just kudos to you and to your Vancouver team, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, and you know, these donors really wanted to be anonymous, and but because it is about supporting the community and supporting our students, and the cultivation was really Kirk and I were sort of joking about this. Knowing when to stand back and let your team do great work is part of being a leader, and that is precisely what happened. This couple just fell in love with Jennifer and Lisa Abrahamson, and just loved working with them. And so, yeah, it's terrific.
Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you for taking the time, Mel. Great report. Thanks for all the good news from Vancouver.
Thank you all very much.
I'd like to take one more agenda item. The consent agenda. We have one item on the consent agenda today, the approval of the minutes from the September 18, 2020 Board of Regents meeting. So I would ask, is there any regent that would like to remove this item from the consent agenda for further discussion? And if not, I would move to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I second it.
Regent Sims seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries. At this point, I'd like to take a 10-minute break, and we can come back shortly before 10 after 10 and go into the shared governance reports. Thank you.
Nice.
Very well, as people gradually come back online, we are live once again at the WSU Board of Regents meeting. Next item on the agenda is a report from the WSU Foundation. I see Vice President Calvert online. Is President Jean Boyland with you, or are you giving the report, Lisa?
I'll give the report today, Brett.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Please
Okay.
go ahead.
All right, thank you. As always, it's great to see you all, and thank you very much for all your support and commitment during these challenging times. It's making a difference to have your partnership with our board of directors. I do have some good news to share with you all. 3 quick updates for you. What we're seeing through philanthropic support to WSU, even with the pandemic, is it's going very well. Our donors, our stakeholders are staying with us. So for this fiscal year, which started on July 1st, to date, we've raised $38.7 million, which is up 29% compared to a year ago. Now, most of that, of course, is the gift you just heard about from Chancellor from Vancouver, Mel. Congratulations again for the $10 million gift. So even with the $10 million gift, the estate gift, we're still running up. We're running just 1.2 million down for a decrease of 4%. So when I say we're running up, that's compared to the industry. Most higher education institutions are running 10 to 20% down from a previous year, whereas we're only running down about 3.9%. So that's the good news. The other thing I want to share and put in perspective what Chancellor Natzhammer provided you with information about the $10 million legacy gift. At this point in time in our industry, this type of philanthropic investment is very unusual. Our campaign council, Grinzenbach Gleer, have most every Pac-12 school as their client, including UCLA and Stanford. $10 million gifts are not happening right now. And so this is a testament to the good work of Mel and his team and the mission of WSU. So once again, I want to say congratulations to Mel and his team for doing incredible work that is not the norm right now during higher education philanthropy. The other thing that I'd like to share and acknowledge is that the principal giving team, led by Mike Connell, as well as the good work of Jennifer Miltenberger and her team, and our legal counsel, Terry Kelly, we were able to meet the very unique needs of the donor to make this happen. So again, everyone, congratulations for work well done in meeting the needs of the donor. The other exciting news is that what I'd like to share with you is that we're continuing to trend in a positive direction with the endowment. As you heard from Jean Boyland yesterday, we closed the first quarter September at $528 million for the value of the endowment, up from $499 million from the fiscal year end close. So this is a strong testament that our alumni and friends are staying with us during this time. Our volunteers are providing great leadership, including you, the Regents, and our faculty and staff continue to drive forward meaningful research, teaching that our donors are responding to. So again, some good news. The other thing is that I'd like to share with you about the innovation that's going on in our area around communication. For us here at WSU, the Coug Nation, we see that donors step forward with all sizes of gifts. So all gifts matter, all sizes, all gifts. So we're really working hard to build that broad-based support. So donors that give $25, $50, $100 are meaningfully engaged. We have a program called Call a Coug, which our students reach out to over 100,000 households per year to connect with our alumni to ask for donations, investments in our student. What's exciting about this is that we've created a new process, new standard in the industry. We are equipping our students to call from home, to call remotely, and our alumni base is responding. And at the same time, it gives us the opportunity to test messages to really resonate with our alumni and friends during these challenging times. So that's been exciting. The other thing is that we have been bringing together 300 to 400 volunteers at a time for training over a 2-day period, which took place back in October. And the good news as part of that is we had our annual celebration, our annual awards celebration, which our students emceed, and we had participation from our alumni and Kirk and myself as part of this virtual celebration. That was very well received. During the awards presentation, we presented the Honorary Alumnus Award to Lane and Mary Jo Rollins, the WSU Foundation Brotherton Award to Jeff and Vicki Gordon, and our highest award, the Gibson Award, to Judy Rogers and her late husband, Lloyd. And it was very well attended, and everyone had a great time. It was actually far exceeded anybody's expectations, so it was a good evening. The other thing that we're working on and taking a lead in the industry as well, as we're hearing from outside sources, is we're creating a variety of virtual football game activities. We're continuing forward with the President's Suite experience. The attendance there for pre-game tailgates has been exceptional. Tim Pavish will tell you more about the activities that the Alumni Association are completing during halftime and afterwards. And Tim's, you may not know, Tim's background is he led a large global advertising agency, the main office out of Seattle. So he's put his past experience as an ad agency executive to very good use. So he'll be telling you more about our Feast of the Arts. It's an activity that many of you have attended over the past several years. If you get a chance, sign up and participate. Tim will tell you more about it, but think of it as a virtual experience like Kirk and Noel. We'd love to have you as celebrity chefs and have you come on board and do like a Cook's Illustrated cooking show. So that's what we're doing right now with Chef Jamie. So we're doing a lot of activities that are new and different, and it's engaging more and more alumni than we ever have before. So that's going well. The last update for you all is that WSU Foundation continues to invest in the campus colleges and units because our development colleagues are very important as they're staying very close to our donors. What's happened over the last 2 years is that we've been talking to the chancellors and the deans, and we've heard about challenges around compensation, titles, and metrics for our gift officers. We have about 70 gift officers with 56 different job descriptions and many different titles. So we've been working with Teresa Cheslick's team and Central HR, and also been working with the deans and the chancellors. At the end of the 2 years, we are moving our development professionals into the right salary bands, the right titles with the right job descriptions. And the foundation has been working very hard to realign our budget to highest philanthropic impact. So during this challenging year, we'll be putting an additional $300,000 into the colleges, campuses, and units to fund the salaries of the development professionals that have direct lines into their deans and chancellors. Our budget within the foundation is self-generated by about 60%. So we've been working hard and making hard decisions on how to realign resources for that continued investment. We're also in the process of moving about $2 million into the colleges, campuses, and units to fund the annual distribution into the development programs. So we understand that philanthropy is based on long-term relationships and long-term returns. And those programs that are invested in, sustained, and continue forward are the ones that will rebound fastest during these challenging times. So with all of that being said, it's with the combination of the scholarship, research, and philanthropy, that combination has the ability to change society and lives. And our alumni and donors understand that. You understand it as Regents, and our volunteers understand that. So everyone has come together and really rallied to make sure that WSU's philanthropy remains strong. So that's my report, and Tim will share more good news here in a little bit. So thank you very much. And again, congratulations to Mel.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions while she's close to the microphone?
It's it's Heather. I had a question that's actually a little bit Mel and a little bit Lisa. I was thinking when Mel was going through his presentation and talking about the food banks and the mental health support and the differences in enrollment related to, some of our most sort of bootstrapped and in need students, and then about the scholarship that was specifically going to address what I would think would be one of those categories, working parents. And then Lisa, when you said this magnitude of gift is just not happening right now, I was just curious whether, I remember having this visceral feeling when I first joined the board that, and in fact, it was when I went to Mills campus, that the work that WSU is doing in terms of providing access to opportunity and equity of opportunity was really extraordinary. And I remember having this impulse to go back and tear up my will and stop giving money to the universities that I went to and instead give money to WSU, just because I felt like the impact was so much greater. Even though, yes, the schools that I went to have good scholarship programs and all the rest, but in terms of just the breadth of student that we are serving, and the scrappiness and the acute need of a lot of these students. I mean, the fact that we're, half university and half food bank right now is so touching to me and so concerning. So I was kind of curious whether you think one of the reasons that this gift happened, as opposed to gifts that might go to a Stanford, for example, might be happening because our work and our students are so much on people's minds right now, and that the need there is so great, but also the opportunity to do good is so great with the gifts. So I just was wondering if you and Mel could maybe riff on that a little bit, because I don't, we're this big prestigious university, and so I don't think it necessarily gets through of just how acute the gap is that we're filling, and the fact that we're filling it so well.
Mel, do you want to take that?
Okay, I'll start. I think it is noticed by our communities. I think that is one of the critical things to the way that our system is constructed, is that our campuses are in communities and are really seen as integral to those communities across the state, and people see that. The story that the donors told us when they gave us the gift was that, or when they first came to us about that possibility, they work at have worked at a large high-tech firm. That is where their treasurer comes from. And there was a program at within their business that allowed students to get tuition. And the students who participated in it, there was one person in particular who was going to be a climber, who was going to be hugely successful. And she was a single mother, and she could not take advantage of the program. And so she never advanced in the business. And so they wanted to make it possible for others who were in similar situations to be able to work and go to college at the same time. And so that is what really motivated them, because they saw that that's what was happening at WSU Vancouver. What would you add, Lisa?
Not much, just that The Vancouver student population resonates very much with this couple, and they could see the person that motivated them to make this gift in all of our students. So that motivation, I will also say, based on the feedback from the donors, Jennifer and her team were the most responsive and the most helpful and the most creative in meeting their needs, because they had talked to another university, but being donor-centric, focused on meeting their needs, their aspirations, really resonated on how Jennifer and Lisa worked with the donors.
I'd also give a shout out to the Washington Student Achievement Council, which has been doing really great work about basic needs and understanding that tuition reductions alone, scholarships alone do not meet the basic needs of students and across the state. And a lot of their work has been really influential in how we work with our donors and our campus community.
Great, thank you. I know, Lisa, you have many folks on your team, and you're always thinking about that donor-centric approach. But it does seem to me that there are a lot of people still with a lot of money with our K-shaped recovery here, and what the stock market has been doing. But they want to give. They are all questioning, like me, whether some of the very wealthy, universities that they may have attended need the additional funds relative to the work that they really want to see done, which is creating opportunity for people who don't even envision themselves being able to go to college for various barrier reasons. And so I do hope that one of the major initiatives that you have is making those people aware of our students, because I think, again, because we are this prestigious university, sometimes people don't know who our students really are. And we need to be sure that they do.
Thank you, Heather. Good reminder. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great discussion. Any other comments? Thank you, Lisa. Next agenda item is the report from the Faculty Senate, and Dave Turnbull is chair. Is Dave on?
I am.
There he is.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy. Oh, go ahead.
No, good morning. It's all yours.
Right, thank you. I'm happy to report that the Washington State University Faculty Senate continues to work in harmony with both the president and the provost. This semester, they asked us to recommend 3 faculty members for consideration to serve on the Executive Budget Council, the council co-chaired by Provost Chilton and Vice President Pearson. The council will seek to better understand WSU's current budget practices and work to develop a budget model that better aligns resource allocation to the achievement of strategic goals. We worked with the Provost's office to revise the spring 2021 academic calendar for the entire Washington State University system, and we continue to work together to create a new temporary grade, NRC, which stands for No Record COVID. Now that's for both fall 2020 and spring 2021. The Senate worked in partnership with information technology and institutional research to create a new data collection tool and results dashboard for assessment of self-reported impacts of COVID-19 on student remote learning. These tools enable more efficient data gathering, visualization, and analysis, helping us to clarify disproportionate impacts on historically underrepresented students, as this directly impacts our land grant mission. Encouragingly, our initial assessments found no significant disparity among these students in terms of remote instruction. We also formed an expanded partnership to continue surveying faculty, gathering feedback focused on remote instruction. Both of these efforts are necessary to alert us to situations that require interventions this fall as well as to plan for next spring. As reported in September, we continue to partner with information technology and academic outreach and innovation in our Canvas Learning Management System project that will fully replace Blackboard by fall 2021. In addition to Canvas, we are working with Microsoft to develop a Teams for Education presence that fosters a real-world collaborative environment. For many fields, this will enhance students' career readiness, especially during the current remote working environment. We work with the Office of Research to amend and rewrite EP2 from the WSU Executive Policy Manual, policy for allocating facilities and administrative cost recovery revenue. I'd also like to add that on behalf of the faculty here at Washington State University, we're happy to partner with any and all levels of administration. And if I remember correctly, President Kirk was talking about faculty fatigue and asked if I might comment on that as well. I can tell you that in our Faculty Senate Steering Committee yesterday, we heard from faculty in Vancouver who say that their teaching track faculty are overwhelmed and they're asking for extra compensation to help them prepare for the distance learning courses. I would say that to describe the faculty as tired or fatigued might be an understatement. I think it might be more accurate to say that our faculty are actually scared right now. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions for the chair? Lisa, please. Excuse me, sorry, Marty. Lisa?
I really appreciate your report and your insights. It would be helpful to understand a little bit more about your last comment. Could you elaborate?
Well, I feel like I have to speak for the faculty, and I don't want to get into any specifics on this, and I don't want to get into the weeds, but I think you could suffice it to say that the faculty here are like faculty anywhere else. They feel that academics should be the centerpiece of an institution of higher education, and that all of the other programs should exist to support academics. But many of the faculty feel that academics exists to support all of the other programs. Does that help at all?
It does, and certainly an emphasis as a premier research university on academics is critically important, and one that I certainly take very seriously. So thank you for your feedback and for your comments.
So for clarification, David, the nervousness or the sense of scared, is that around a financial component, if I'm hearing you correctly, more so than when you say scared about the COVID situation?
That would be correct, yes. It's financial in nature, yes.
Thank you for that comment, and I'd like to just have you elaborate just a little bit more. So the concern is financial, but the feeling is that the academic part of the institution is the support for everything else. So how do those two things relate? I guess just be a little less cryptic and be a little more elaborate a little bit more on how people are feeling, because this is one of my standard questions is, how's morale? It sounds like you're saying it's a little bit rocky right now, which it is for all of us for many, many reasons, but give us more about what's really going on with people.
Well, I think what the faculty sees is that we're hiring administrators right now. We've had a number of searches that have occurred and are continuing to occur, and yet, the faculty hires seem to be frozen right now, and so they look at that and they don't understand how is that possible during the current financial situation? How are we hiring more administrators? And certainly, I don't think that I have to bring this up, but the athletic debt weighs heavily on all of the faculty members' minds, and they look at that and And they believe that money will eventually be taken from academics and used to support athletics, and that's what scares them. Does that help?
Yes, that is helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the chair?
All right, thank you, Brett. Appreciate it.
Thank you, David. At this time, I'd like to call on the WSU Vancouver president, and if the vice president is with him, are you both going to report?
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Oh, very good. Armando Antonino.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Evans.
Please,
morning,
go ahead.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Armando Antonino, but you can just call me Mondo. And I have the privilege to be joined with Evans Comey, the vice president. We're here to just give a little update of what ASWCV has been doing this last few months. So going into this year, we knew that everything in terms of being a student leader is going to be completely different. And some of our expectations that we had, we sort of had to change and evolve given the circumstances that we're currently living in. And that's where we sort of got the idea to create a strategic plan just for ASWCV. So we got a lot of inspiration from the strategic plan system, as well as the strategic plan for Vancouver. And we begin this process with just talking to our students and figuring out where their areas of needs were and what we could do to help. And through that, we found that there was 5 areas of focus we wanted to put all efforts into this school year. And I'll begin with the mental and physical health. Going distant, it's really easy to think you're alone. And given all the other complexities, like Mel was talking, the fires, Portland being a hotspot for civil unrest and protests, we wanted to make sure our students' mental health was still focused, as well as the physical health. And we were focusing on figuring out what their needs were. They needed someone to talk to. So we set up different programs, and we switched our counseling program to be virtual. And that's been very beneficial for our students. And along with that, we put out some surveys to gain more insights. And we found that students just need a break from Zoom and they miss their friends and family. So we've been really focusing on how we could do different events socially and over Zoom that really makes them feel like they're still part of the community and they're not alone. Next was food insecurities. A huge issue on each campus is food and providing food for students and being able to afford food for students. And we are very lucky to have a really good food pantry on our campus. And we wanted to work with them to make sure our students were aware of this and our students didn't feel any stigmas regarding receiving help. And I'm also proud to say that just yesterday, the student Senate passed a bill that was going to sponsor 100 articles of warm clothing for the upcoming fresh food event regarding Thanksgiving boxes. And ASWC will also be helping construct those boxes and handing those boxes out to our students. And we're very excited for that. Next was social equity. We student leaders, you really have to advocate for every single student and really understand where other students come from and put yourselves in their shoes. So we really wanted to make sure that all student leaders had a really good experience and training on how to be more equity and aware of all the systemic racism that is so prevalent in our society. And that came with a lot of training at the beginning of the semester from some of our top campus administrations and a deep partnership with CELA, the Center of Intercultural Learning and Affirmation. And we're really just focused on advocating for every student, making sure every student has a place on the table, but also building new tables for students to come and be represented and speak upon themselves on. And Evans and I are also really passionate about the environment. So we wanted to make sure that that was a focus in our strategic plan. Luckily, WSU Vancouver is already extremely green, but we wanted to make sure our students knew how they could do their part and what they could do to be more green. As well as we created an environmental committee specifically focused on that and ways to teach our students, but also ways to set up guides for different events when we're back on campus on how to be green. And last but not least was the cultivating community and engagement. That was a huge focus for us. we wanted to make sure all students still felt that they were a part of the Vancouver team and they felt like they still had a home on campus, even though we weren't actually on campus. So we worked tremendously to set up different events and programs that all students were welcomed and enjoyed and wanted to come and be a part of and step outside of their comfort zone. We've also partnered with the Office of Student Involvement to create involvement boxes, which is our way of putting an event into a box. And we're really excited about that. And we've been actively growing how many boxes we give out to our students. And some of my favorite ones that we included was a crockpot meal kit. So our students were able to sign up and receive a crockpot, which is very beneficial, as well as some recipes for them to use on their own time, and really thinking critically on how we can engage with those students in their homes and virtually. And we're very excited with the outcome about that. We've also, priority has been to connect our students with the resources on campus and make sure they're not alone. And we've done different things like resource postcards and active on social media to make sure students just know that we're here for them and that they got this. And there's really nothing to be worried about. You know, there's always that light at the end of the tunnel. And although it may seem kind of dark right now, just keep on taking it day by day and really trying your best. And without that, Evans and I would gladly answer any of your questions.
Well, first you have to tell us your kitty's name. And since you wanted to be part of the report.
He joins me in all of my Zooms.
Not directly related to report, I'd like to know where you are in your academic career, your major, and what led you to WSU Vancouver. Both of you, if you don't mind sharing.
Evans, would you like to go first? I feel like I've been talking a lot.
Oh, sure, I can go first. Good morning, everyone. My name is Evans Kame, and I am the Vice President for the SWSU, a recent transfer from Clark College, and I am majoring in political science and minoring in business administration right here at WSU, and I've been honored to serve the students in the student government. And this is my junior year. So.
Wonderful.
My degree is a little bit of a mouthful, so I'm an integrated strategic communication major with a minor in digital technology and culture. This is my junior here at WSU Vancouver, and I am a proud first generation college-bound student.
Fantastic. Any questions for our student leaders?
I have a question. First of all, I'd like to just say congratulations to you both and thank you for all of the amazing work that you're doing. And as you have this opportunity to speak to the Board of Regents, I'm just wondering, what can we do to help support you and help you achieve your goals?
That's a great question. And there are multiple ways, I believe, that we can partner with the Board of Regents, not just directly, but indirectly through our administration. And I'm really glad that our Chancellor Mel is here, who has been very supportive of us since the beginning of our leadership service. We've been having monthly meetings to discuss important alternatives to serve students both on micro and macro level, looking at student needs and making sure that we meet those needs together. And I think with that, when we have that connection with the administration, we will have the capability to understand, they will have the capability to understand our need, and they will have to present it to you, then we can get things done that way. Probably Mando would have a more comprehensive answer to.
Thank you, Evans. And exactly what you are doing today, coming together, discussing the issues that we need to solve together and really focusing on the students and their needs and what we can all do to help them move forward and continue their path into the WSU.
Great, thank you both. Keep up the good work.
Any other comments or questions?
I always have my standard question, which I feel like, Mondo, you've partially answered already, but overall, given the situation that we all find ourselves in right now, how's the morale of the students in Vancouver?
It's very day to day. And I think during times like this, we really need to remind our students why we're here and what the goal is of trying to accomplish a degree. And for me, that's getting a degree, my first to my family, and, you know, focusing on being a better person and also trying to build up a strong community and give back when I can. Students are very much just overwhelmed and fatigued and exhausted. And there's always seems to be another hurdle in a way. You know, we started off thinking would be in person or something along that, and then we're online. We're like, all right, cool, we can still do this, being very optimistic. And then we had extreme civil unrest and riots in Portland that all students were affected by and participated in. And then, of course, we had the fires that so many of our students had more families in their homes, and some even were evacuated from different areas. And then we had sort of an expectation of spring semester, and then we were found out that, oh, spring break is canceled, and we understood why, but we really focused on our mental health and what we can do there.
Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Other questions, Ron?
Armando, tell me why you chose WSU and why would if I was a high school student, why would I want to go to WSU?
Yeah, so my experience is a little different in that, like I said, I'm a college-bound student. So I really didn't think that I could afford college. And I lived with my aunt. She adopted me when I was very little. And she's a preschool teacher. So I knew that there was no way we could really financially afford college. So one day, I sort of opened a letter from WSU, and I saw it as a golden ticket because it said 4 years for free, college bound. All you gotta do is apply, sign up, meet the requirements. And that was really, like I said, my golden ticket to help my family and get out of the economic areas that we're in and just improve overall. And I definitely saw that as WSU believing in me and believing that I had more potential and giving me an opportunity to succeed in life. So I took that, and I, from that moment on, worked as hard as I could in high school to be successful. And I got into WSU, honestly, a few days before Christmas, my senior year. So I also saw it as a Christmas gift when I got out to WSU. And that's really why I chose WSU, is because they believed in me when I felt like no one really did. And they offered me my golden ticket to a better life.
Mondo, I just want to say that you, and I'm sure Evans as well, would make a great promo for the university, and particularly for WSU Vancouver. So keep up the great work, and yeah, you're very inspiring, both of you.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments? You two don't know how well you've rung the bell, because Regent Cerna is a journalist and a videographer, so I could see a project coming.
It'd be very easy. I guess that we have to see how we'd have to work in the cat, but yeah. And what was the cat's name, by the way? What's the cat's name?
Bento, like the sushi.
All right.
Well, thank you both, not just for the report, but for your leadership and for your involvement and for being Cougs. And thank you for making our day. Appreciate it. Thank you. So, sticking with the Vancouver campus theme, the Graduate Professional Student Association Vancouver, Kelsey King, President. Is Kelsey on? Yes, I
Yes,
see you.
I'm here.
Please, go ahead.
Great. So yeah, I am the president of the Grad Student Association at Vancouver. We started just last fall. It seems like a much longer time ago. I'm a PhD student in my third year. I'm advised by Dr. Cheryl Schultz on the Vancouver campus, who's like also the natural sciences grad coordinator, if you've worked with her. Most of the people in our association are currently natural sciences grad students. That's where we have the bulk of our PhD students who are also mostly operating as student employees as research assistants on grants or as teaching assistants in our classes here. So that's kind of most of who the organization is now. And in our first year, we really tried to build a network of communication. We didn't actually have a listserv that auto signed up all grad students on our campus. So that's been a big get for us, and just organizing that, but also connecting with our staff and other faculty members across campus to advocate for grad student issues is a big component of what we do. And just trying to connect grad students to each other, both on our own campus in a lot of small departments, but also to other campuses, so that there's more kind of innovation between students learning and talking and support between us all. Currently, the Grad Student Association is one of the only clubs on Vancouver campus that's specifically for grad students, which is not to say that we don't participate in other clubs, but there's definitely a need for a GPSA type organization on our campus to provide career development events, trainings, even things as simple as like having workshops about what are our exams. So for PhD students taking their prelims or their proposal defenses, sitting down with faculty and kind of having discussions about that have been really helpful for our students here. So one thing that we've had to kind of work with is our lovely Mondo and previous ASWV Senate members to get funding for our events, which has been slightly difficult because there are some events that GPSA provides that we can't do under the constitution of the ASWSUV Senate because they have to be open to all students. Whereas, you know, GPSA has many events that are specific to grad students and their needs. For example, grad student retreats or funding grad student study centers, things like that, that are really great for grad students to have kind of their own community. But we also really love the events that we get to participate in that include everyone on campus. Like, I'm sad we didn't get to have our annual fall barbecue. That's always a great day. Free food is great for grad students, as you might know. So in the pandemic, we've been held up being able to provide any funding for events or things like that with just ASWUV has kind of annual budgets that you can apply for as an RSO. So we've done that, but you know, it takes a while for that to process. So we've just now got our funding to be able to have events and care packages, be able to go out to grad students or socially distant picnics, anything like that. So we're planning on doing those things in the future. Now that it's a little gray and rainy here, we'll hold off, but mostly our events have been virtual, holding game nights, socializing, but also holding how to get into grad school, why you want to get into grad school events for our undergrads, which has been really successful to just have an open and honest dialogue about what it's like to be a grad student, especially in the natural sciences. And one of the biggest things that we've been working on is the healthcare. Some of the healthcare pieces don't work as well in Vancouver because we don't have a clinic like they do at Pullman. So we worked really hard, especially with Mel, our chancellor, and Christine, our vice chancellor, Portfors, to both get some quick on-campus services, things like just a healthcare card, a little card that tells you how to use your healthcare. A lot of our students don't realize you have to get your prescriptions at the Pullman pharmacy, or you will have to pay completely out of pocket and then try to get reimbursed, which usually takes about 3 to 5 phone calls for that to actually go through. So simple things like that that make a huge difference in grad student lives has been really great to work with our faculty and staff. I'm happy to take any other questions about what we're doing or how we're doing emotionally.
Would love
Sure.
to. whether your morale is different than undergrads or sort of how you guys are hanging in.
Yeah, I guess I would say if you imagine all the faculty problems and then all the undergrad problems, grad students have both of those. So, you know, some of us have kids. Most of us are teaching undergrads in some capacity. So we're trying to do emotional labor to help them while also trying to get our own research done, just like faculty, and taking classes still like our undergrads. So some people have had to drastically alter what research they're doing. And so I think those people have had a little bit of turmoil to get through more than the others who have kind of had an easier research plan or at their end of their degree where they were already writing. But yeah, I would say kind of a combination of undergrad and faculty stresses.
Regarding your healthcare remarks, emancipated students are not insured?
So anybody who has an assistantship gets healthcare through WSU, but a lot of the healthcare services are kind of dependent on having access to the Pullman campus facility. So like, you know, you can get your prescriptions really quick, or they have eye doctors there, they have physical therapy there. And those are all things that we've had to work in the past few years. Patience McGinnis, who does our Access Healthcare, Mental Health Care Services Director. She's worked really hard to build a relationship with the Vancouver Clinic to get a lot of those, but like we still don't have any access to physical therapy because we don't have any physical therapy students who provide it in the Pullman Center. So a lot of it is very logical, like, yeah, there's no one doing physical therapy for students here, so they don't have anyone to do that for grad students, or they don't have people learning to do eye exams to give to use grad students as their kind of test subjects and help them in the clinic.
Thank you.
Laura, did your question get answered?
That's yes.
Oh, okay. Very good. Any other comments? Good work, Kelsey. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
So now from the Administrative Professional Advisory Council, Jessica Gerds, Vice Chair, is going to report. Jessica?
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to share today from a staff perspective. Our team is incredibly thankful to the President and to you Regents for the support and inclusion that has been extended to APAC. I appreciate the highly accomplished group that I'm in the presence of and your commitment to governing WSU in an excellent manner, which positively impacts Washington State. So my name is Jessica Gerdes. I'm the Principal Assistant to Ken Roberts in the College of Medicine. And the reason I name drop my boss is because some of you worked closely with Ken in the process of developing the College of Medicine. At one point, we calculated Ken's meetings, his average meetings from the year of 2014 to 2015 in the early stages of the College of Medicine build. And for every one of those meetings, which was 200 averaged monthly, I was behind the scenes, helping to make sure that all the details were set up and that what he needed was available every time. So I would say that behind every accomplished leader is at least one person, if not a team of people. And I propose that at WSU, staff are a huge part of leader success. We would like a voice at the table when decisions that affect the whole are being made. And hopefully by my sharing this will help to highlight the many important and diverse roles that staff fulfill across the state. Today, I'm representing APAC, Administrative Professional Advisory Committee. I am the vice chair. Our chair is currently out on medical leave. I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with the number of staff that were last reported in the institutional research webpage. The breakdown is there's 1,980 faculty with 1,069 AP staff, mostly 1-to-1 ratio with faculty, with an additional 1,984 civil service staff. Looking at your agenda, it appears our newest APAC update was inadvertently missed, being included in your meeting dossier. But we talk about some of the initiatives we are supporting, such as staff appreciation, professional development, mini grant funding, salary equity, and we're recently embarking on a new project called Career Ladders with HRS. Additionally, this year APAC will be especially focusing on streamlining communication to APs across the WSU system and inviting feedback. We hope to raise expectation, awareness, and partnership with university leadership that encourages healthy discussion and long-term commitment between all constituents. With that in mind, we are also ambassadors on behalf of APs and civil service. We acknowledge there are many circumstances beyond anyone's control this year that take front and center attention. However, our commitment is to keep moving the dial on job satisfaction and to helping to define the needs of staff. Today, I would like to appeal for staff to have a stake in decisions that are generally reviewed by the faculty and student body. Staff would like the opportunity to provide feedback as well, with the same amount of time that the faculty council and the student council have to review. I think that's 2 weeks. Examples I'm referring to are decision to remove spring break. Many APs have children at home, and spring break is a time to spend unencumbered with family. Though we understand the decision, this adds another layer of balancing to continue delivering our role in the university. If we were asked for feedback, the announcement might have been a bit softer. Also, the changes to grading, allowing for the NRC COVID grade to be posted 1 day before winter break. There's a lot of concern from advisors that they're going to need to forego their winter break to be available to students. So as a committee, we would like to help reduce staff anxiety and increase connection with the university network. And besides just working to solve disconnections, we would also like to herald good news and solutions. We are super appreciative of the commitment by the president to solve what he is able by connecting us with champions in the areas that we're questioning. We have made a point to share in our monthly APAC meetings his direction and commitment to our questions. Thank you for your time. And if there's any questions, please let me know.
Any questions for Jessica?
Jessica, I got a flavor for morale from what the comments you just made. Can you shed any other light on how you were all doing?
I think it's there's a lot of different people in a lot of different places, and as others have said, it's different from day to day. I know that a majority of APs are the ones that are responsible for going through like tons of hours of workday training right now before the university switches over, and that's just compounding some of the navigation we're all trying to do by having kids at home and the lack of connections that we have with our team and trying to just navigate in today's world. So I would say from day to day, it's very different, and from place to place, it's very different. But overall, I feel that people are really struggling, especially staff, because staff have a biting concern that when budget is announced and cuts are made, that it's going to be APs, since there's no real job protection. And so I know that that adds to the stress and anxiety. And so the more that we have the opportunity to ask good questions and report back what the university is doing to protect our jobs and to help have the least amount of impact, it's better for all of staff.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you for reporting to us, Jessica. Thanks for filling in too.
Thank you.
The last report would come from the Alumni Association. Alumni President Doug Wilcox is on the agenda. And there we are. All right. It's all yours. Thank you.
I'm going to defer to Tim Pavish to lead off here if possible.
Well, thank you, Regent Blankenship, and good morning, everybody. Doug and I are calling in today from the Regents room in the Lewis Alumni Center on the Pullman campus, and we appreciate this opportunity. Doug's going to present his first section about our scholarship program.
Speaking about the scholarship program, this year, the Alumni Association is going to be offering the highest number and amount of scholarships in its history. Association will award $537,300 in scholarships for the 2021-22 academic year to help current students stay in school and complete their degrees. To make a bigger impact with more students, the association increased the dollar amount per scholarship from $5,000 a year to $6,000 per year and expanded the number of awards, offering 83 in-state awards this year compared to 44 last year. Additionally, part-time students from the Global, Tri-Cities, Everett, Spokane, and Vancouver campuses will now be eligible for scholarships. The additional funds to be awarded during the 21-22 academic year were made possible by the success of the Cougar license plate program, membership program, and generous donors. In some cases, there may be part-time scholarships that are awarded in the amount of $3,000 as opposed to the $6,000 normal scholarship award. There's one other thing that I'd like to veer off script on and comment about, and that is to do with an additional area of alumni involvement that you may not be involved with, and that has to do with a topic that's peripheral to your discussions about athletics and is of more basic nature, and that's the university's Athletics Council. The Athletics Council is a committee of one of the committees of the president. It involves representatives from all manner of faculty, students, student leader positions, as well as alumni. There are 4 alumni, individual alumni members on the committee, 2 men, 2 women, as well as Executive Director Pavish. We meet during the school year, fall and spring semester, about once a month. And the issues that we address have nothing to do with wins and losses, coaching hires, scheduling, or any of that sort of thing, but almost always to do with understanding the full dimension of the athletics department and largely being aware of and contributing to student welfare issues. For example, this last meeting, we had an extensive report from Dr. Sundry Henry, who is the department's doctor, talking about primarily the COVID issue. But probably on a more significant nature is we really get to know student athletes. And we have regular participation in our meetings of 2 or 3, maybe 4 student athletes talking not about their athletic career, but about their life in general, where they came from, what their overall WSU life has been, and their aspirations as they go forward in life. And an example of one of these students would be Travell Harris, who all of you watching the game last week saw what a contributor he is to our football program. But we've come to know Travell over the last 2 years or so as really an extraordinary young man and student. And what we see happening is that these student athletes, not only do they maintain the rigors of their athletic participation, but they also carry normal and are very successful in their academic areas, and not just minimal activities, but pretty complicated curriculum. And oftentimes they find time to go on and have contributions in the way of community service. Really remarkable people. You find that they are extremely driven and very focused, and extraordinarily, for college students, well organized. And they go on to be outstanding alumni and leaders and contributors in society, often coming back to participate in the university as alumni. And they're just a real asset for the university. And so that's a part of any discussion that's beyond the scope of just athletics, but rather about young students and another area in which we really have outstanding people in our midst. So with that being said, I'll turn it over now to Tim.
Thank you, Doug. In follow-up to some of Lisa's comments earlier today, she asked me to delve a little more deeply in the area of the creativity that the Alumni Association staff is putting into the work that we do as a result of COVID-19 and the change from in-person to virtual engagement activities. In your report, we talk a lot about the Feast at Home program, which we think is a great example of the kind of innovation that I'm going to mention. Due to the pandemic, we had to cancel our popular in-person Feast of the Arts dinner series. But instead of just giving up, we saw that as an opportunity to develop a brand new food, fun, wine, kind of a virtual experience that would be something that our alumni and donors would enjoy, but also more importantly, perhaps, it's a platform that university leaders can use to engage those important audiences. Feast at Home is not the feast, but you might recognize a few of the features of the Feast franchise. Feast at Home goes like this. We invite a celebrated WSU connected winery to participate with us. I want to add that this year we will have 5 of these Feast at Home events. 3 of the 5 wineries that we are featuring are owned by WSU alumna, which I think is an important fact to point out. The winery ships 2 bottles of wine to each of the couples or groups that sign up for the event. Chef Jamie selects an appetizer recipe that showcases many food products from WSU. We then send that recipe along with a shopping list of ingredients to each of the participants the week before, so they will have an opportunity to prepare that appetizer the evening of the event. We start the event by playing a recording of a WSU jazz faculty performance while the guests gather in their homes. We are working on a virtual art show from the Jordan Snitzer Museum of Art for a future Feast at Home event. After the welcome, we introduce WSU leaders in attendance who then address the participants. The alumni winemaker, speaking from their cellar room, talks about the winery and introduces the first wine. What comes next is a lot of free-flowing conversation between the winemaker and the guests. We then move to the hospitality business management teaching kitchen, where Chef Jamie and an HBM student walk through the final steps in preparing the appetizer. The winemaker introduces the final wine. We then seat the guests at Zoom tables in smaller groups while they enjoy the appetizer, the wine, and the table conversation. We conclude the evening back together in the main Zoom room where we share some final thoughts and play a virtual performance by the Cougar Marching Band of the Cougar Fight song. We've had 3 Feast at Home events so far, and each one attracts a larger and larger crowd. Last week, we had between 70 and 80 participants. We have 2 more events scheduled this fall, but even after we can resume in-person feasts, we will continue to host Feast at Home events. We have found that 1, people absolutely love the experience. 2, it gives us a chance to engage people who have not been able to attend a feast dinner in person because of the scarcity of available tickets. 3, we can connect with people all over the country, not just those who can travel to Pullman in the fall for a fall football game. 4, we can host Feast at Home events year-round. We're not tied to the football schedule with Feast at Home events. And 5, we can conduct Feast at Home events for individual colleges and campuses to help them with their fundraising engagement activities. Lisa mentioned earlier that I used to work in the advertising agency business. I spent 20 years doing that, and I was managing partner of the advertising division of the largest agency in the state of Washington before I returned to my alma mater. We serve clients like Holland America Line, Nordstrom, and as former Regent Basler can attest, our most prestigious client, was Chateau Saint Michel Wine Estates. At the Alumni Association, we approach creating innovative alumni engagement initiatives the same way my agency clients and I created compelling advertising for our clients. We focus on what WSU needs, who the target audience is, what interests and motivates them, and then we deliver it in an imaginative way. We sent this email, this one right here, to alumni this past week. It outlines some of the programming we're now offering. We're focusing our efforts into 3 areas: social events, career development, and lifelong learning. The activities in that email range from a virtual halftime gathering during the Oregon State game to a virtual ringing of the victory bell that we are working in concert with WSU Athletics. We are offering a session on how to network virtually to aid your career. We are also offering sessions to help people learn how to build their credit and how to take better pictures with their smartphones, among many other topics. We are also incorporating this year's common reading program, Trevor Noah's book, Born a Crime, into our new virtual alumni book club so that alumni can join with faculty, staff, and students and all share in the same experience. I want to send kudos out to my teammates and our volunteers because they're the ones who make it all happen. And as we move forward, we will continue to find innovative ways to engage alumni for the betterment of Washington State University. And as always, I conclude with go Cougs. Any questions?
Any questions for either Tim or Doug?
Tim, I'm just wondering, this is Marty, how many people, like when you do these feast events, like how many are you actually, attendees are you actually getting?
Well, the last one, we had 35 screens, 35 Zoom screens. Each of those Zoom screens had between 2 and 4, sometimes 8 people per screen. So we were calculating, we were somewhere around 70 to 80 people. And again, the response to the actual experience itself has been remarkable. People have really, really enjoyed it. All right, thank you.
That's all. Thanks, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Well, that takes us to the business portion of the meeting, the committee reports. I will call on the regent who chairs the committee for a quick review. And when we come to the action items, I'll do the action items from here. And that'll be our format. So first committee is Research and Academic Affairs. Regent Schauer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we had a committee meeting of the whole. So we were able to engage with the full Board of Regents yesterday. And we looked at 2 future action items: establishing a Department of Viticulture and Enology, and discontinuing the Masters in Public Affairs. We had some really good dialogue, in particular regarding the Masters in Public Affairs. It seemed as though we had the opportunity to really understand the rationale behind that decision, which wasn't an easy decision. But as was noted, there tends to be a lot of opportunity to add more programs, and it's much harder to look at whether or not the programs that we do have are effective and we have the right number of students that are continuing to enroll. We do have an action item to consider, and I'll wait to introduce that. And then I know, Mr. Chairman, you'll go through the process of seeking the motion and approval. But before I do that, there were 3 information items that we did review. And I think that the one that is of most interest for me to share a little bit more about, actually President Schultz had included in his update, which was around the research expenditures. I think what's also important to note here, and what I found to be really significant, was the incredible amount of research expenditures that this faculty is able to realize given the number of faculty members. I think that not only have we heard today, but we have heard in the past just how important achieving some of our research goals and initiatives depends on our ability to have a strong faculty that are leading in this way, and the research expenditures are incredibly impressive. We also heard from Guy Palmer, who's the founding director of the WSU, Paul G. Allen, School of Global Animal Health, a Regent professor of pathology and infectious diseases, in tandem with Colleen Kerr, our Vice President for External Affairs, Governmental Relations, and our Chief Legislative Officer. And one of the programs that President Schultz mentioned in his presentation was the work that's being done around infectious diseases over in Africa. And this is a model that I think is really pivotal for us to spend more time understanding as it relates to our strategic importance around research and really leading, especially in this pandemic moment. So as a group, we have mentioned that we'd like to see some more work around this and a greater understanding at our January retreat. But the model that Colleen and Guy have partnered to move forward is really one that we want to create more opportunities to see happen in the future. So with that, that is my report, Mr. Chairman, and we do have an action item to establish a Department of Community and Behavioral Health that I understand you'll introduce at this point.
Thank you, Lisa. Of course, the action item is to establish a Department of Community and Behavioral Health, as Regent Schauer articulated. I move that the Board of Regents approve the establishment of a Department of Community and Behavioral Health as proposed. Is there a second?
A second.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion from the board? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any regents opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Regent Schauer. Finance and Compliance Committee report by Regent Dickinson.
Well, thank you. We had quite a healthy conversation yesterday, and it was really, really good, excuse me, to hear from each of the regents on several topics around the health and sustainability of Washington State University as a whole. As mentioned, we are entering into we had our audit entrance meetings, and I have met one-on-one with the state auditors to commence that particular audit, and we'll continue to stay close with Stacy as we move forward on that. We spoke about, and we'll be continuing to get more information and learning more around the sale of taxable revenue and refunding bonds. Stacy staying on top of that and keeping us apprised as a board around the opportunities that we may have that we will want to act upon as we move through this period of time. In addition, we were able to engage and have like I said, a healthy conversation, and Stacy and Pat Chun were able to take us through the fiscal year 2021 athletics budget update and a proposal on a recovery plan. I think it's notable that there is consensus amongst the Board of Regents at this time that we do not want to be making any major decisions as to WSU's athletics program during a pandemic. And there is consensus amongst this group that the remaining in the Pac-12 and being a part of the Pac-12 is important to the overall health of this university. And we want to continue forward in gathering data to best understand the positive as well as potential negative impacts if indeed the university was faced with a decision like that, of which we are not considering at this time, but we would like data to work with and understand that. And then in addition, that we will continue and circle back around as Stacy gets not better numbers, but more and more clarity around what those numbers could be. We hope they're better, but that this plan, please continue to proceed with it as we get more information around the Pac-12 and the possibility of borrowing against future revenues there and what that looks like, as well as what our budget as a whole for athletics, and then independently as the university's budget looks like as we move into 2021. So I just would again like to say thank you to Vice President Pearson. She really has a big lift here, as does many of the individuals on this phone call right now, our chancellors, everybody. And this is a difficult time, and I feel like we are kind of feeling that a bit as we heard reports today around, this university has done a miraculous job for the last 3 years, working very, very hard to get the budget in alignment. And just as they were starting to come right out of this very, very rigorous recovery plan, we were hit with this unprecedented time. And I think it has a lot of different tentacles to it as to how it is, how the fatigue is spreading out across the university right now. So as I think I speak for the Board of Regents in that we appreciate everything everyone is doing to try to hold the line, and we will continue to try to navigate this collectively together in the most sustainable and appropriate way that we're able to. So with that, I would turn it to you, Chair Blankenship, to walk us through the action items, please, for the committee.
Thank you, Regent Dickinson. Action item number 1 is revised services and activities fees for academic year 2020-2021. Before bringing the motion, I note for the record it was decided that this item will be presented as an action item rather than a future action item in accordance with Board of Regents bylaw 2-12-B. I therefore move that the Board of Regents approve the revised services and activities fees for academic year 2020-2021 as proposed. Is there a second? Am I on?
Second.
Seconded.
Thank you, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor then please say aye.
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 Any Regents opposed? Motion carries. Action item number 2 is revised services and activities fees allocations for summer 2020 and academic year 2020-2021. Before bringing the motion, I note for the record it was decided that this item will be presented as an action item rather than a future action item in accordance with Board of Regents bylaw 2-12-B. I move that the Board of Regents approve the revised services and activities fees allocations for summer 2020 and academic year 2020-2021 as proposed. Is there a second?
I second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any Regents opposed? Motion carries. Action item number 3, one-time revision to certain mandatory student fees for academic year 2020-2021. I move that the Board of Regents approve the one-time revisions to certain mandatory student fees for academic year 2020-2021 as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Regent Dickinson, for the leading the committee through a spirited discussion and reaching us to this point. Next committee, Strategic and Operational Excellence Committee. Dr. Powell, could you present?
Muted.
Laura, if you can hear me, the mute button must be on.
For some reason I unmuted and then it kicked me over, but anyway. If you
You're
hear
on.
any loud noises or screeching, we are having extremely high winds here, and we'll probably be sending them over to Pullman, Spokane at some point. Maybe they'll blow your snow away.
I think they are literally right now as I look out the window.
Okay. Yesterday we met as a committee as a whole, and we had a number of very interesting discussions. We started out with a discussion of the WSU Foundation endowment update from Jean Boylan and Lisa Calvert. And the endowment is in excellent shape, and we are really thrilled that one of our members, Heather Redmond, is going to be on that committee. So appreciation. The other thing that I think is really meaningful is that there's a really strong team effort between Stacy Pearson and our finance group in the WSU itself to work very closely with the foundation as a team. And I think that will bode well for all of us and as we move forward, particularly in times like this, which are very, very difficult. We next heard an excellent presentation on the latest on the modernization project as an update. This project's been going on for several years and is going to really revolutionize the way our university systems are going to be working and allowing people to have a lot more information they need to manage budgets and other things. And so this is the rollout is going to actually begin initially with part of the operation in mid-December, but it will definitely, it's going to go full force the beginning of the calendar year. So it's been a long time in coming. A huge amount of work has been going into this. So congratulations to all those who have worked so hard and the staff globally who are taking training and getting themselves prepared for getting started with this. We then had a presentation on the spring testing plan for Pullman and Health Sciences Spokane campuses. And this is for the COVID testing plan. It's very, very detailed. A lot of thought has gone into the testing and contact tracing and procedures so that we can keep students, staff, faculty, all as safe as possible during this spring semester. This information is also going to be translated for use to other campuses and with lessons learned and some of the procedures that are developed so that we can make sure that of course, as President Schultz mentioned, there's a lot of uncertainty still about what's going to happen in the spring. But the idea is to just make sure that whatever we do it with greatest safety. We then heard a legislative update, both on the state level and the federal level. And of course, there too, things are very much in flux with the election. And so Colleen Kerr gave a very an outline of the plan that is currently in place for our legislative outlook. And of course, there's a lot to come on that as we learn more about what our state legislature is going to be doing, but also with changes in the federal with the new president coming on. And finally, as far as our information items, we had an update from Chris Hoyt on the WSU system plan. This is the first time that WSU has actually had an entire system plan, and it's very encouraging that now the plan is complete and they are moving forward to but the implementation stage. And there's a lot of discussion, as President Schultz mentioned this morning, about the fact that we're also going to make sure that the budget gets aligned with that strategic plan. So those are the information items that we had. We had one future action item, which is a proposed revision to WAC 504-26, which are standards of conduct for students, and creation of a new WAC. And just briefly, in May of 2020, the U.S. Department of Education published amendments to the Title IX Education Amendments of 1972. And so we had to do some emergency rulemaking, and which was done in August 15th to be in compliance. And then a new newly created section of WAC was specifically addresses definitions of relationships, excuse me, and interactions as they relate to intimate partner violence. So we will be carrying this forward as a future action item for action likely in the spring, and we'll be following any modifications that may occur in the process. We do have two action items, which I will turn over to Chair Blankenship, but just briefly, one of them is to establish our 2022 Board of Regents meeting schedule. And then the second is to propose revisions to another WAC, WAC 504-24-030, involving university undergraduate housing requirements. And this rule change became an important policy to review because of COVID-19. And the change will allow the Division of Student Affairs, Housing and Residence Life Department to be able to address both the student and family needs in this really shifting environment, and it clarifies language in order to make that available. So with that, I'll turn this over to you, Chair Blankenship, for the actions.
Thank you, Regent Powell. Regarding the 2022 Board of Regents meeting schedule, I move that the Board of Regents adopt Resolution 201-113-631 and approve the 2022 Board of Regents meeting schedule as proposed. Is there a second?
I second it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Second action item is the proposed revision to the Washington Administrative Code 504-24-030 undergraduate housing requirement. I move that the Board of Regents propose revisions to the Washington Administrative Code 504-24-030 undergraduate housing requirement be revised as proposed.
I second it.
All moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Other business that was before the board. The board met in executive session yesterday, November the 12th, to discuss with legal counsel litigation or potential litigation in which the university is or could be a party. The board will not be taking any action as a result of those discussions, and that is that item. This is the portion of the meeting reserved for public comment period. 10 minutes is allowed. And it's asked that there be a 2-minute time limit per speaker. I'll ask the clerk if anyone signed up. So there will be no speakers. And other than that, that is the end of the agenda. Is there other business to come before the board by one of the regents? And if not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second to adjourn?
Second.
Very well. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the Board of Regents is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Go Cougs.
Cougs.
Go
Congratulations.
Cougs!
Go Cougs beat Oregon.
Right.